Zimbabwe simuka udzosere, Zimbabwe simuka, Zimbabwe simuka udzosere, wawakaura vanhu. Zimbabwe simuka ezanu vayeuke, vauraya. Zimbabwe simuka. Kupasa kwandinoshanda, ndovira mukudzidzi. Nitambire mari yangu, kubira mukudzidzi. Baba here, ndosororari. Zimbabwe simuka vezanu vayeuke, vauraya. Mafuta ezipota mutengere muri yangu ndobira mukudzidzi. Baba here, Zimbabwe simuka vezanu vayeuke. Kana ndichida chingwa pamwe hapana, kana ndichida petu pamwe hapana, kana ndichida shuga pamwe hapana, ndiende kuchipata hapana. Simuka kana.
Good morning, good afternoon, Zimbabweans, depending on, of course, on where you are. And I know that in some areas it's good evening. Welcome to Change Radio's live production. And it's this week's news review. And of course, the biggest news in Zimbabwe today is the introduction of the ZIG, whatever that means. And of course, this introduction is coming at the backdrop of Zimbabwe's inflation rate hitting a world record 1,558%. I've never heard of that. So is the introduction of the ZIG going to work? And of course, to help us answer that question and discuss this issue, we are joined with Chenai Mtambasere, a comrade, a champion, an activist, and of course, an economist based in the United Kingdom. We are also joined by Honorable Madzivanyika from Mbizo constituency, and of course, he'll be speaking from Zimbabwe. Let me give this chance to Chenai Mtambasere to take a few minutes to greet our viewers and listeners. Chenai, over to you. I think you are on mute. There we go.
Good evening. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Good evening, Chief. Thank you for having me this evening or morning or afternoon, wherever your listeners are listening from. Yeah, you know, like you said, we meet at this kind of very sad time, really, in the time of the history of Zimbabwean economy, where we have a government that is failing to create the right response towards economic rescue. So, you know, I look forward to sharing some of my insights with your listeners. As you can see, I'm not currently at home, so I'll be very limited in terms of time. So, you know, can't wait to get to it and really just hopefully enlighten some of your listeners as to some of my concerns in terms of how this issue is being handled by the regime and kind of the risk factors that it presents for our economy.
And yes, Chenai, I must apologize for pulling you out of your vacation. But I know you are a comrade. You're always ready to get in the battlefield. Honorable Madzivanyika, thank you so much for responding to the call just like that. And you will not be able to see Honorable Madzivanyika on video because, you know, he is in Zimbabwe and there is no electricity there. Honorable Madzivanyika, please do take a few minutes to greet our viewers and listeners.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you very much. I'd like to thank everyone, all listeners, for having me here on this platform. I will shed more light when the opportunity comes, but for now, let's get to hear from my compatriot Chennai. Thank you, my brother.
Thank you, Honorable. And Chennai will get right into it. The country has been thrown into confusion. People are confused. I am confused too by the sudden introduction of the ZIG. They call it the Zimbabwe gold. And you are an economist. Give us your perspective from an economist perspective. What is your understanding of the ZIG and what will be its impact economically?
I think, first of all, I'd like to propose a name change from ZIG to ZIF. This is a Zimbabwe fraud. This is the biggest fraud in the history of the country at a very grand scale. So what has actually happened, and I think I'd like to start off here because this is for me, the headline point, is the fact that on Friday, the new governor, having had only less than a week in position, moved to announce a new currency. And the worst thing about that announcement is that this currency hasn't been produced yet. In a statement then issued by the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe, they categorically state that the currency, the notes and coins for this ZIG is still being produced. They are not looking for it to be in full production and circulation until the 30th of April. So, but meanwhile, what they've started to do actually is to change people's balances and convert them into the ZIG currency. So this I am calling a national fraud, because what really should happen, Chief, first of all, is that when you are doing this currency change, the banks, so whoever you are banking with, they should go to the central bank, to the Reserve Bank with their balance to say, of the total ZWL balances for our customers, we have, for example, 500,000. Then the central bank in turn should then give them the ZIG equivalent of 500,000. And it is only at that point that balances can be changed, because that money has been availed to the bank. And this hasn't happened. And they are looking for it to happen on the 30th of April. So what's the rush? Why make this announcement and start to convert people's balances when this money is not even available in circulation yet? And this is why I am proposing that actually we change the name from ZIG to ZIF. This is the Zimbabwe fraud. I equate it to, Chief, I say to you, give me all your money in your bank and I write you a check when I know that that check account has got no money in it. What would you call me then? That would be a fraud. I would have stolen money from you. And this is what the government is doing. My prime suspicions are that the government does not actually have the amount of money required to even print a new currency, to develop the coins, because it costs a lot of money, millions of dollars, to be able to do that. And they haven't got that. We already know that they haven't got the required asset backing. They've not even told us what the asset that this structured currency is being based on. How strong the asset is, where the asset is invested. They've just told us is gold. But we know that something that we were thankfully allowed to see with our own eyes is that we only have 1.1 tons of gold reserves. And that is insufficient to be able to run an economy. In the last budget statement that Minister Mutuli announced just a few months ago, it was valued at 10 billion US dollars. That is how much we need to be able to run the economy. So why is this a solution? It's a solution that is not a solution. It's a solution that is being enabled to enable the government basically to claim our deposits and use them for whatever it is that they want them to be used for. Because in any case, by the time that the ZIG is produced on the 30th of April, the value between today and then, it would have further devalued. So it's very much unfair what the government is doing. This is a grand theft. There's no other name for it. And so the other thing that I would also like to highlight is that, all this kind of, I've seen someone on Twitter calling it feja economics, is something, if you read the monetary policy statement, I think it's one of the first 5 pages. It notes that there is a lack of confidence in the economy. And so this is the one thing that they should actually be addressing, and they haven't yet been able to address it, which is extremely sad, because we need to restore confidence in our economy. And these kind of things that they're doing are not going to achieve that. You don't restore confidence by just going into people's accounts and taking their money and not having the currency to replace it with. It's just going to make things worse. So I think that is my first point that I would like to highlight, to say, before we even delve into the details, try and even understand the economics behind this move. The very first thing is that there is a grand fraud that Mshayavano has committed within his first week of appointment to steal from the people of Zimbabwe. And it's extremely sad that at such a time as this, when people are already struggling with drought, with cholera, there's a global crisis already happening, that the response of this regime is to make things a million times worse by stealing from its own people. So I think that's the first point that I would like to raise. The
Right.
second point,
Oh, okay. Fine.
sorry, the second point, just before you ask me your questions, is the fact that the Minister of Finance, who, for all intents and purposes, the Reserve Bank governor, actually reports into the Minister of Finance, but we have not seen him. We've not heard his voice. He has not released a statement. I looked on his preferred handle, which is, I think, Invest Zimbabwe at Mutuli, and he is telling us that he's been awarded something. He's not even spoken about the currency situation at all. So even that, again, is a further no confidence in the situation that is happening. Investors will be looking to hear what is the Minister of Finance saying, and the Minister of Finance is absolutely numb on this situation. So that in itself is a major cause for concern.
Yeah, Chenai, just a quick question. Let's put this in very simple terms so that the people, people like me, laymen like me who don't understand economics can get the gist of all this. There are people with money in their EcoCash accounts, people with money in their bank accounts. Your grandfather, your mother has an EcoCash account, and there was money yesterday or a day before this currency was launched. What do they do now? What is the current situation?
Well, the official position of the central bank has been to say that their balances will be converted, the banks that they have denoted. Now, that's what the official position. However, we are hearing that the banks themselves, they've just stopped, they've suspended transactions. Sorry, can you still hear me? Because I'm having a note.
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead. We can hear you. Go ahead, Chennai. Yes, it looks like Chennai is frozen. Your network is just disappeared there. But of course, we do have Honorable Madzvanika here. Honorable, you are a member of Parliament. If the people in Mbizo were to ask you today, one person in Mbizo were to ask you today, what is ZIG? What are we supposed to do? What will you tell the people in your constituents? How do you explain this whole currency thing to them?
Thank you, Chief. Can you hear me properly?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. What I can tell the people of Zimbabwe and the people of Mbizo about the new currency is that ZiG is a new currency that has been brought forward by the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe. The newly appointed Reserve Bank governor introduced a new currency in a bid to control the two macroeconomic twin devils, which are in hyperinflation as well as exchange rate volatility. I'm not sure if I'm okay with these terms to our people.
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. So the major reason why the monetary policy was promulgated was to deal with the two economic fundamentals which have been a big problem in this country for quite some time, which are hyperinflation as well as the exchange rate volatility. So what is important to note is that the new currency is said to be backed by foreign currency reserves, as well as so what do I mean when I say that foreign currency is backed by foreign currency as well as precious minerals? I'm saying if the literal meaning of it is that if you are holding the Z currency at any point in time and you no longer want the Z currency, those Z currencies can be redeemed at any bank to get the precious mineral, which is gold, or to get foreign currency. That is the meaning of the term backed. So my issue now with the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe and the government at large is that if you look at the amount of gold that is said to be backing this currency, the amount of gold that we have is 1.1 ton locally, and the 1.3 ton, which is said to be offshore, and the remainder being precious minerals, so like diamonds and other precious minerals. $100 worth of US dollars as a backing. So in total, the total amount of US dollar foreign currency backing, which includes the gold, the minerals, and the foreign currency itself, is worth 285 million US dollars. This is the amount that is been given on board to back this currency. So to me, the issue is, how much is $285 million in terms of our economy? If you look at of that 285 million US dollars, you realize that from the current dollars we are circulating in the system, the current US dollars is 2.6 trillion US dollars, which has been converted to close to 90 million US dollars. So the amount of Z currency that we have at the point of launch is 90 million US dollars equivalent of ZIG. So if you look at the 90 million equivalent of ZIG, it does not even have the ability to cover simple macroeconomic challenges that we might face as a country. If you look at importation, Zimbabwe is a net importer at the moment, but you will see that the 90 million US dollars or the $90 million US equivalent of ZIG is not sufficient to give us 12 days of importation of goods. So what does this currency mean if it doesn't give us $12 of importation, assuming that there are no exports? So to me, this currency is a non-starter. This currency is a fraud of highest proportion, because it does not cover or does not give us the correct position in as far as the macroeconomic challenges are concerned. Can you hear me, Chief? Hi, Chief, can you hear me?
Chief has just dropped, but we can hear you.
Oh, thank you. Let me continue. So what is important for any currency to work? Because the issue is about whether this currency will succeed or not. What is important for any currency to work is hinged on the following issues. I will highlight those pillars which guarantee the successful operation or the successfulness of any currency as launched. Number one, the crisis of confidence. What do I mean by confidence? Confidence is some kind of trust. It's the trust that is built from consistent demonstration of good economic policies. The trust that is built from consistent. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Oh, thank you. Let me proceed. So confidence is built from consistent demonstration of good economic policies. It's also built from consistent demonstration of good governance. It's also built from consistent demonstration of transparency and accountability. So these fundamentals have lacked a lot in our government. Because the lack of trust in the financial systems itself, in the financial institutions, has created the net effect of low uptake on government programs. Because of previous episodes of, because the people will be fearing that the previous episodes will repeat itself. Let me look at this price of confidence. You realize that
It does.
Confidence. Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, but you are coming in and out.
Okay, so should I continue?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Chennai.
Yeah, go ahead, Honorable.
Thank you. So the crisis of confidence creates a lot of expectations. People will expect to see when a new policy is being introduced. People will expect some expectations.
Is it me with the poor network?
I can hear you, Chennai.
I shouldn't have moved.
Can you hear me now, Chennai?
Go ahead, Honorable. Chennai
Oh, thank you.
Problems.
Okay, thank you so much. So if you look at confidence, it is the lack of trust that is brought about by history, but what happened in the past. The people are so much concerned. They've got that fear, they've got compartment of fear as to the feeling that what happened in the year last year, what happened in the past 5 years, what happened in the past 10 years, can resurface again. So what does it entail in terms of this currency that has been issued? You realize that in 1980, the Zimbabwean government introduced the Zimbabwean dollar, which was a par, which was 1:1 with the Rhodesian dollar. The Rhodesian dollar was also at par with the British pound. So in 1980, when the new government was ushered, the Zimbabwean dollar was at par with the British pound. A few years later, the era of hyperinflation assumed, an era of high exchange rate volatility, an era of high unemployment, an era of low capacity utilization of negative growth rate. It ensued to the point that from 2003 to 2008, we witnessed a plethora of economic changes to the currency, to the monetary policy, to many economic fundamentals that have been introduced. For instance, for the period 2003 to 2008, we witnessed the introduction of special agro checks. We also witnessed the introduction of bearer checks. We also witnessed the introduction of travelers checks. And at one point, Mukoma Soshe, you realize that the government introduced $100 trillion note. Imagine $100 trillion note was introduced in Zimbabwe. It was rejected by the people. To make matters worse, they went on to cut zeros. To reduce the zeros by introducing another set of denominations. On the 12th of April 2009, the then Prime Minister Morgan Tsvangirai, during the inclusive government brought about by the global political agreement,
Honorable, can I
Yes,
just give Chennai a chance to speak, because I know she's gonna drop very soon and the network is acting up. We'll come back to you. Chennai, you have heard what the Honorable has been saying. He's talking about the zeros are being cut off, as a solution by the government. And at the moment, Zimbabwe's inflation rate has hit, the highest, the record, world record, 1,558%. Do you think the introduction of the ZIG is going to help our economy?
Absolutely not. Because you see, the market has got its own value of exchange. And one of the first things that the Honorable talked about is on confidence. And as long as there isn't confidence in the economy, you cannot command people to say that because we have announced, we have created a new currency, suddenly things are going to get better. The only other country that has had worse inflation than Zimbabwe is Zimbabwe. So even though we are at 1,600 odd percent inflation, you will remember in 2007, 2008, where we were 100 and something thousand percent inflation. So it is still possible for things to get worse. And the way things are going, this is exactly where we are headed, whereby the government, instead of being honest and saying, look, we need to rescue our economy, we need to address the fundamentals, they're trying to put lipstick on a baboon, so to speak, by saying we're introducing this fake funny money. But this funny money is not going to rescue the country, because if, and I say this with a big if, we get to a point where the money is eventually printed and comes into circulation, the moment someone holds it, the first thing they're going to think about is exchanging it for fiat currency, which is the US dollar or the rand. And this is going to further devalue that representative money. And I'm calling it representative. It's not real money. I must stress this. Real money, when you talk about the US dollars, you talk about the pound sterling, the rand, the real money, the value of real money is based on its government and how the government, the trading activities within that country. In Zimbabwe, we do not have real money. We have this fake money that the government is saying is asset based. It's not asset backed at all. The value comes from them saying, enforcing people by saying to them, you suddenly have to use this money. Therefore, if you have to use this money, the assumption that some value will be derived from it. And that is not the case, because when people are using this money, the only thing they're trying to do is to use it to buy US dollars, to use it to buy the rand. It's going super hyperinflation mode. So, and even distort the value of good money. So what happens is, even things, commodities that are going to be valued in US dollar, they will still be subject to inflation, because we have that situation in Zimbabwe where we are creating value even for the dollar. So the situation right now in Zimbabwe is dire. It will get into the extremes. You know, we already know that we've got 2 million people in Zimbabwe currently living below the extreme poverty line, not just the poverty line, the extreme poverty, where you cannot even afford 1 meal a day. And this is going to make that number is going to double. We know that there are people that are dying from cholera. Cholera is still very much rampant in Zimbabwe, although the government is high the cholera figures. So we've got that situation that is happening, also making things worse. We've got the situation where we've had drought, we've had El Nino, we've not had enough grain produce. We need to be importing. We don't have the money to import. And at the same time, there's shortage globally on grain because of the war in Ukraine. So all these factors are going to make things extremely worse. This was the worst time for the government to put out this gimmick. You know, I can't imagine that whoever made this decision had an inkling of wanting to do something good for the people of. They must have done this intentionally to cause as much harm as possible. And they are going to achieve that.
Wow, Chennai, I know your network is now beginning to act up, but I have one more question for you. And to Zimbabweans that are just joining us, we are discussing the recently introduced ZIG. And if you have questions, please do type in the comment section. We have experts here that are prepared to answer that. Myself, I'm confused about what is going on in Zimbabwe. And if you are confused too, let us know. And also let us know where you are watching this from. And please do remember to share this video with as many people as possible so that we can educate many of us. Chennai, I'll take you back to 2016. You were working with Tajamuka when the bond note, the infamous bond note, was introduced then. And I think at that time there was some kind of consultation because there was time for organizations like Tajamuka to resist the introduction of the bond note. I remember they had a meeting with the Reserve Bank governor at one time, and about 2 or 3 massive protests were done. Are we going to see, do you expect Zimbabweans to go in the streets again? What do you expect? What should be the response of Zimbabweans to the introduction of this new currency?
Well, I mean, I can't speak for Zimbabweans and say to them, go into the streets, especially where me myself, I'm not even in Zimbabwe. But what I'm saying to Zimbabweans is that, you know, this is a grand theft. If they only take home, if only you hear this one thing, is that this is a robbery at a grand scale, because like I explained in the beginning, the usual processes are, when you want to introduce a new currency, the Reserve Bank governor should go to all the banks, consultation, the business community, the banking community, the citizens themselves, and in the very least, an indication of what our bank deposit balance is, and then make good on those to give the assurance that, okay, because we're changing the currency, this is the rate we are using to change. Let's now produce and provide that money to the banks so that the banks can honor the deposits that their customers have made. And this has not happened. So
Okay.
now there is no legal recourse for what is happening in Zimbabwe right now, wherein the central bank is saying that they are converting balances. How do you convert a balance into money that is not being produced? It's I mean, it defies logic, never mind economic sense. So this is the thing that I think Zimbabweans really need to understand. You might get to 30 April. We have seen it before in 2016 when the bond notes was being produced, and they said that the German company that was printing the on the day that they were supposed to be supplying, they said we're not going to be supplying. The central bank had to go and find someone else to print the bearer checks and or the bond notes or whatever. This could happen again, except it's going to happen after the fact. It's going to happen after balances have been converted. So, you know, and it's 2-3 weeks away before we can actually get any acknowledgement or affirmation that the money is actually been printed.
Okay. Thank you very much, Chennai. We appreciate your contribution. Let me go back to Honorable Madzvanyiga. I know you've been quiet for some time, and I want you to continue with your analysis. But we do have a number of questions for you, and our viewers are also sending questions. Someone is asking here whether the members of parliament were consulted before this new currency was introduced. Did you discuss this? Did you debate this in parliament at all?
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Thank you. To answer this question, there was no consultation with parliament or any particular committee which is the finance of the parliament. So to answer the question so far, there was no consultation. It was purely a decision of the Minister of Finance under its subsidiary, the Arab business.
But under normal circumstances, are you not supposed to talk about this in parliament?
Yeah, it's a bit tricky because it is the role of the executive to make day-to-day decisions on behalf of government.
Okay.
The role of Parliament will come to do oversight and to interrogate the decisions of such institutions.
Okay. And you just muted yourself, Honorable. If you can unmute and continue.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Chief. I was highlighting the issue of confidence to say that confidence is trust that is built from consistent demonstration of good policies, consistent demonstration of good governance, transparency, and accountability. So, to do with the issue of currency, there is no consistent demonstration of good governance. There is no consistent demonstration of good economic policy. There is no consistent demonstration of transparency by the government of Zimbabwe. Why is this? In 2003 to 2008, the government introduced a wide range of changes to the currency regime. The special algo checks were introduced. The bearer checks were introduced. The travelers checks were introduced. And like I have mentioned, at one point, Zimbabwean government introduced $100 trillion note. Imagine the level of madness. This $100 trillion was rejected by the people. To make matters worse, they went on to devalue the currency, starting euros, and introduce other denominations. That was pathetic. Those memories are still lingering in the minds and the hearts of Zimbabwe, destroying the concept of confidence on the current government and the current financial system. Confidence was a little bit restored on 12th of April 2009, when the then Prime Minister Adv Chamisa suspended the operation of the Zimbabwe and introduced the multi-currency scheme. So you then realize that from the period 2018 to around 2020, there was some stability in terms of inflation, in terms of exchange rate. There was no rate problem. There was stability as a result of new confidence derived from new confidence. As we move on to 2015, the ZANU-PF government was intact. They then, through the RBZ, introduced the bond, which they said by $200 million facility from the African Exim Bank, which is headquartered in Egypt. So, if the African Bank could guarantee a bond, which was said not to be currency, but a facility to export, to promote export, as well as there was liquidity and change. So the failure of the bond is clear testimony that this government cannot be taken again in the new country. As he continues to add salt to the wound of confidence that he already had. Oh, as we move, that was not enough. On the 20th of February 2019, the RBZ government, through the monetary policy statement, also announced that the fees for bond notes and the equivalent balances, the 1 month balances, have been changed. It's no longer called the bond note. It's now called the RTGS dollar. And that RTGS dollar is going to operate with along the US dollar and the currency. That is another policy change. Moving from bond note to RTGS dollar in a space of 2 years. That was so unfortunate. On the same year, in 2019, June 24, 2019, the Zimbabwean government banned the use of foreign currency, including the use of the US dollar and the rand. And actually, I said that all US dollar balances and all the currencies, the US dollar is now 1:1 with the RTGS dollar. This was done on the popular United States of So 6 months down the line, after introducing RBJ's dollar, the government of Zimbabwe, they went on to dump the regime and introduce the money currency under the name of RTGS. Look at all these situations, all these changes. They create a crisis of confidence. No one will trust under the circumstances. People who, for consistent change economic policies, a consistent change of economic policy. They hate business. They hate foreign investors. By the change to say we are now only, and the US dollar balance is the way in the account are now running to one with the US dollar. A lot of people, millions of Zimbabweans lost value. Millions of Zimbabweans lost their pension. So who can, in can trust this government? On the 29th of March 2020.
So, Honorable, before you go to that point, you just talked about the impact of the RTGS to the people when it was introduced. What do you think will be the impact with the introduction of this new currency?
Thank you so much. The impact is the same. The new Z currency is the same as the bond note. It is the same as the RTGS dollar. It will continue to lose value. There was a segment where I was looking at how it's going to operate, what do you how it's going to expect from this new currency. I was just concentrating on the confidence crisis. That was that arises from multiple policy pronouncements on currency from 1980 to date. But people would understand and contemplate how things have gone up to where we are today. So if you can allow me to finish, then come back to the question.
Okay.
If it please you. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much. So from June 2019, when the government banned the use of foreign currency or the basket of foreign currency, then the people of Zimbabwe rejected the law that was passed by the government to say we're no longer no more US dollar, no more, we are limiting ourselves to the US dollar. And it failed. On 29 March 2020, 6 months down the line, the government reverted again to the dual use of RTGS dollar along with the basket of currency. And this took us to where we are today. All of a sudden, in 2024, the government went back after realizing that the Zimbabwe dollar was lost value. They now cut back and say we are not using the C currency. That is where we are. So, with all these changes over time, it defeats the purpose of the trust that the people have with the government. That was all about confidence. I now move on to the issue of the new Z currency and how it will affect its operation. You realize the government of Zimbabwe or the RBZ knows well what needs to be done to restore stability in the macroeconomy. But the problem they are facing is indiscipline. What do I mean? I mean so that you realize that the RBZ will be funding the quasi-fiscal process using printed money. So the Z, whether it's the Z, whether it's the US dollar, whether it's the RTGS, as long as the RBZ does not stop printing excessively, the RTGS dollar or the Z dollar, that will not change. Looking at the current circumstances in Zimbabwe, Zimbabwe has been making many projects that were financed by printing of money, such as construction of roads, etc. So Zimbabwe does not have access to long-term financing because of inability to pay or service the debt. We have got a debt of around 60 billion to debt, and you cannot get new loans. Honestly, let's be honest with each other. No person can continue to lend an unpaid debtor. It's not possible. So you are saying that the only way that they are taking out their project, construction of dam, construction of roads, is through printing of money. When they print money, one supply will increase, and it will increase at a rate bigger than the growth of the economy. And as such, the price will continue to go up. Inflation persists. So there is no way the government is going to control this talent waste. It will not do, because the appetite to do it is unstable. They will call it. Right now, there's the report that are paid. Imagine this current what the new parliament is doing. Imagine many other projects that are paid. They are already. How will they finance those projects? They do so with the print, and I'm sure they will do. So the new current project. Let me move on to the issue, which is very important. Guarantee the work of this currency. Every currency is a function of the currency. A currency cannot be sold compared to other currencies if the currency is not producing competitively. What do I say? What do I mean? If the government is not producing sufficient goods for export, that it can be mechanized or non-mechanized. If they don't produce enough for export, what it means that our country will be only balance energy, balance the payment of check. What does it mean? It means that, for example, for every dollar worth of goods that we export, for every dollar worth of goods we export, the country will import $5 worth of goods. That on its own gives us on an inferior position. It makes our goods less competitive. So, as long as we are having this low capacity utilization in production, we are not going anywhere. So the current, because the fundamentals that are required in the production are not there. We are having challenges in power, which is the spring of production. We are having challenges in the government itself. The policy is inconsistent. The current challenges. So everything will fall by the wayside. There's no much support. So generally, without going into the monetary policy itself, looking at the current only, I can assure you that the current will not do. So you can go ahead and ask your questions, and I can ventilate some of them, and we answer this one.
Thank you very much, Honorable, for that, because really the people of Zimbabwe are confused, and you can see the comments in the groups. People don't even know what they are supposed to do. So as a member of parliament or as parliamentarians, what are you going to do? Is this issue ever going to come to parliament? You discuss it, and then maybe you air people's views, because even here on the comment section, you can see that a lot of people don't understand how the ZIG is going to change the Zimbabwean situation.
Definitely, thank you, Chief. I think in simple terms, let me put it this way. This is a crowd of utmost proportion. The ZIG dollar is the same as the RTGS dollar, the same as the bond note. Whatever they experience with the bond note, whatever we experience with the RTGS dollar, is the same that are going to experience with this big dollar, because they are not changing. The assumption that it is going to disqualify, it is going to go to the palace. Because we've seen for ourselves the people which were checking down around the social media last week, the quantity of gold everywhere. So it's not sustainable. It's not sustainable. Because the backing The break that we're talking about is supported by foreign countries, United States, surrender requirements. What do I mean by this? The government is saying when someone exports goods and get revenue from outside, probably in US dollar. Let me put it in perspective. The government exports goods worth, an individual exports goods worth $1,000. The government is going to say 25% of that, which is $250. We are not going to get it as an exporter. We are going to give you the ZIG currency, and the Arab business will take the $250 at currency for it to use to support the currency. That on its own will tell you that the government is not ready to back this currency. Because you cannot introduce a currency which is backed by what you have already collected so far, or what you don't know how much is going to come. It's a to be honest. So, number two, how will the government create demand for the big dollar? From its monetary policy statement, the government is saying that through the RBZ, the way we are going to promote the demand for the local big dollar is to ensure that companies who pay their corporate tax or income taxes, 50% of their quarterly payment is supposed to be remitted in currency. What does it mean? That is meaningless because you realize that the majority of our tax revenue comes from VAT. The other taxes which contribute meaningfully, like pays UN, for example, present with all taxes. So to say that the government will promote the demand of the new currency by saying 50% is going to be paid from corporate taxes, shall help the government to support currency. It's not understandable. It's unfortunate. If the government is sincere about the new currency, if the government is not this new currency, the government should start to make sure that with immediate effect, all government departments, government agencies, and the companies of government should start to charge you. We should see passports being levied in big currency. As of now, all passports, birth certificates, and the IDs are levied in the United States dollars at currency. They don't accept the equivalent of SWIFT. So it's meaningless if the government will pronounce a piece of legislation and does not want that piece of legislation to affect this operation. No, it can't be. You have to test your own medicine first before giving it to others. Let's go to local authorities. Let's go to municipality. The charges or water charges, whatever, those charges, they are now in US dollar. They are based out in US dollar. Why, if you trust your currency, you must make sure that those bills or those government or own entities charge you the currency, so that you prosper confidence. The government itself has not wanted this thing, but it wants to force it on you. What does therefore it mean? Is that this currency is bound to fall. I don't know if I've answered you on that one, Chief.
Yes, you have. You know, I will continue to talk on the side of the people because you, as a member of parliament, I'm sure you would also want to clarify a few issues. So when this issue is finally tabled in parliament, what are you going to tell the Minister of Finance as members of parliament? Are you going to defy? Are you going to make suggestions? Do you have a counter proposal to what the government has already proposed?
Okay, thank you very much. You realize that the introduction of the currency, of this new currency, came as a false start, because there was what we call the wholesale foreign exchange market, where companies could go and make bids, and the Arab business would then allocate whatever they want to those bids. So it started in 2020, and it is stopped on the 12th of January 2024, when the government did not have enough reserves of foreign currency to meet the bills that were the government have enacted. So the commodity market, which was introduced by the Arab, failed. Because right now there were people or business people who had paid the equivalent of $1,000 to the RPZ so that they get their allotment of foreign currency to use in their business. But ends from the 1st of January 2024, the RPZ failed to meet the allotments, regardless of the fact that they had received the $1,000 equivalent. What kind of fraud is that? By a policies of the federal bank of the country. So these are the issues. Because, for example, if someone on the 12th of January 2024, when the wholesale forex market stopped, the exchange rate was $1 as compared to Zimbabwe dollars 10,000. If someone had given the RPZ 1 million Zimbabwean dollars so that they can get their allotment of foreign currency, as at 12th January, they were supposed to get $100. As at 12th January. But because of movement in the exchange rate, the interbank rate as the conversion point today, $1 was equivalent to Zimbabwean dollars 10,000. So the same company which gave the 1 million to RPZ on the 12th of January, with the current rate, is now only getting $30. The monetary policy statement did not address this. The loss of value as a result of the delays by RPZ in paying the allotment is required by law. So you see, this is how that happens as a result of delays in settling allotments as per the constitution. It's a fraud. How can we move to the next page without addressing the atrocities of the previous state? These are the issues that we need to raise in Parliament. Number 2. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Oh, thank you. Secondly, I'm going to also raise the issue of insufficient measures addressed improving the demand for the dollar. How can we have only 50% of shipping?
Yeah, now we can't hear you, Honorable. It looks like the network for Honorable Madzivanyika is playing up, and we were just about to round up. The next thing I was going to do was to ask Honorable Madzivanyika to give us his last remarks, but his network is beginning to act up, but it looks like he is back. Honorable Madzivanyika, are you back?
Yes, Chief, I'm back.
Yes, your network is beginning to act up, and I was going to ask you to round up. We're left with a little over 2 minutes, and as you round up, I wanted you to just comment on the comment that was made by Advocate Chamisa when he said Zimbabwe needs a political change, not a currency change. How far do you agree with that statement as you round up?
Please come again. I missed some part of the question.
Okay, I was just saying that we are left with a little over 2 minutes, about 3 minutes precisely. But I also wanted you, as you say your closing remarks, I wanted you to respond to the comment made by President Chamisa when he said Zimbabwe needs political change, not a currency change. How far do you agree with that?
Thank you very much, Chief. Let me be honest with you, Chief. I fully agree with the statement by the President, Adv Chamisa, on the point that it is the politics that we need to solve. In economics, there's what you call political economics. Political economics, it entails that the people of a particular country, they believe in a particular leader. Then they are bound to agree or to lose confidence in the proposals of another leader which they do not trust. Let's go by the exact figures. 42% of Zimbabweans, those who predominantly live in urban areas, believe that the current government is failed. So do not undermine or understand the law of 44%. I know the number could be more. So the issue, if those people believe in the president of Adv Nelson Chamisa, they will not embrace a policy of encouraging people. So it is not translated also other. They respond more to collective political responsibility or a shared vision than they respond to the role of technocrats. So to be honest, it is very true that the political economy is also important, and the issue of political leadership is very important. The issue of disputed elections does not augur well with the macroeconomic variables. As much as you can do propaganda on elections, do propaganda on anything else, you cannot do propaganda on the economy. The economy will stream, and then it will show up by way of the exchange rate.
Well,
Hi, Chief, can you hear me?
Yes, Honorable, yes. If you can just make your closing remarks. We are struggling with network right now. If you can just make your closing remarks.
Okay, thank you.
In less than 2 minutes.
Okay, as for recommendations, if I was the government, I would recommend that we dump all these ZIG and whatever those local currency as the short-term economic recovery measures. I would introduce the US dollar as the currency of choice, at least in the short to medium term. We ensure that we maintain a robust and vibrant policy credibility and consistency to restore market confidence. We also ensure that we push and advance the agenda of supply side support or supply side management. We are going to push for production so that we have got we produce goods at comparatively cheap price, so that we become more competitive on the international market. At the end of the day, it's all about the crisis of confidence. At the end of the day, it's all about the crisis of political leadership. At the end of the day, it's all about policy discipline. Thank you very much, my brother, for the time that we shared together. I hope the people benefited from our contribution and our debate. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Honorable. The voice that you are just hearing is the voice of Honorable Madzivanyika, member of Parliament for Mbizo in Kwekwe, and he was helping us unpack here the issue of the recently introduced currency, the ZIG, Zig, whatever that means, Zig. They say it means Zimbabwe gold. Do we even have enough gold to back that up? Of course, as you heard from our panelists here, we don't even have enough gold to back this currency with. And of course, we also heard from Chennai Mtambasere, an economist based in the United Kingdom, and she described the ZIG, or the launch of the new currency, as a complete fraud. And of course, Honorable Madzivanyika said that, or he has already said that this is going to be a complete failure. And he suggested, as a member of parliament, that the government should instead dump this currency, stop introducing new currencies. They've introduced the bond, it failed. They're introducing the ZIG, and according to Honorable Madzivanyika, it is going to fail again. His suggestion as a member of parliament is that Zimbabwe should just stick with the US dollar until everything is stabilized, the production has been brought up, we have enough gold, and of course, we are producing enough goods and commodities to back any currency that will be introduced in future. Yes, we just did this exchange radio to give you information because there is a lot of confusion. I saw it in the groups because even myself, I am confused as to how this ZIG currency is going to change the fortunes of our country. And you can see clearly from what is happening, from what will be happening in the next few weeks, that we do not have a government. We are on our own as Zimbabweans. We do have a governance crisis, and we need to do something about it as Zimbabweans. If we keep quiet, this is just going to continue. We are not helping ourselves, Zimbabweans, by remaining quiet. I remember in 2016, when the bond note was about to be introduced, there were massive demonstrations led by Tajamuka and other groups, and the people of Zimbabwe resisted the introduction of the bond note. What about now? Are we just going to accept the introduction of this currency? Are we just going to accept and allow the government to continue to ride roughshod over us and taking our money? Because believe you me, there are people that are going to lose money. Just like we had people that lost money, thousands of dollars, some millions of dollars when the bond note was introduced, because that's when they were just saying geje, geje, 1:1. So it means a lot of people lost their money. Even now, they've come up with a stipulated exchange rate. So it means if you had money in equal cash, you had money in the bank, you had money somewhere, you are going to lose out one way or another. I think it's time, Zimbabweans, that we say enough is enough. But I want to thank everyone who has been here, everyone who joined, and everyone who shared this live with other viewers. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. Until we meet in other programs, as we round up, thank you very much, Honorable Madzivanyika, and thank you so much, Chennai Mtambasere, for joining. We appreciate you. Thank you. Good night, or good afternoon, or good morning, depending on where you are. Thank you.
Thank you.